If you're drawn to romance that breathes instead of rushes, where desire lives in restraint, and intimacy is built on patience, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. This is the story of the man who stayed close enough to feel, but far enough to wait. I notice it the first night he stays late. Not something obvious. Not a look or a touch or a confession that makes my pulse jump. It's subtler than that, so subtle I almost miss it. We're sitting at opposite ends of the couch, the space between us deliberate. The window is open, letting in the muted sounds of the city below, and he's listening to me talk like my words matter more than the noise outside. When I finish, he doesn't speak right away. He just nods once, slow and thoughtful, like he's weighing something. And I realize then, he's close enough that I can feel the warmth of him through the cushions. But he hasn't moved an inch. Elliot comes into my life quietly. No dramatic entrance. No charm meant to impress. He's white, early 30s, tall in an unassuming way, with a calm that feels earned rather than practiced. We meet through circumstance, mutual friends, overlapping schedules, the kind of repeated proximity that makes strangers familiar before they become anything else. The first time he comes over, it's purely practical. A power outage. A broken elevator. A shared laugh in the stairwell. You can wait here, I offer, meaning nothing more than shelter and company. He hesitates before stepping inside. That should have told me everything. He never makes himself at home without permission. He asks before sitting, before pouring water, before opening a window. You don't have to do that, I tell him. I know, he says. I want to. The answer lingers longer than it should. We settle into a rhythm that feels intentional. Evenings spent talking. Music low. Lights soft. Conversations drifting from surface level to something deeper without either of us forcing it there. He listens more than he speaks. And when he does speak, it's measured. Thoughtful. You're very aware, I tell him one night. Of you? He asks. Of everything. He smiles faintly. Awareness keeps you from crossing lines you can't uncross. The words sit between us like a boundary he's drawn for himself. The thing is, he could cross them. I see the want in his eyes sometimes. In the way his gaze lingers a fraction too long before he looks away. In the way his jaw tightens when someone else's attention drifts my way. But he never acts on it. Never assumes. Never takes. I test him without meaning to. A shift closer on the couch. A hand resting too near his. A moment of silence stretched long enough that it could snap. He notices everything. But he doesn't move. Do you ever get tired of holding back? I ask one night, half teasing, half curious. His answer is honest. Yes. That surprises me. Then why do it? Because wanting something doesn't give me the right to reach for it, he says quietly. My chest tightens. I start to understand him through patterns rather than stories. He wakes early. Keeps his phone on silent. Never drinks more than one glass of anything. Checks the door twice before bed. Not out of fear, but habit. You've learned control, I tell him. He nods. The hard way. I don't ask him to explain. Some things reveal themselves only when they're ready. The closeness becomes something we both acknowledge without naming. He walks me home when it's late. Always one step behind. Like he's watching my surroundings more than me. You don't need to escort me, I say once. I know, he replies. I want to. There's that word again. Want. Unclaimed. Unacted upon. The first time someone mistakes us for a couple, it's at a cafe. Your boyfriend's order? The barista asks casually. I glance at Elliot. He doesn't correct her. He doesn't confirm it either. He just looks at me, waiting. I swallow. Yes, I say. Later outside, I ask. Why didn't you say anything? Because it wasn't my place, he answers. You spoke. The respect in that makes my breath hitch. The night the power goes out, everything shifts. Darkness settles over the apartment, sudden and complete. I curse softly, fumbling for my phone. Elliot is already there. Flashlight in hand, steady and calm. Hey, he says gently. You're okay. I step closer without thinking. He still doesn't touch me. You're really committed to this distance, I murmur. It's not distance, he replies. It's patience. For what? For you to decide, he says simply. The air thickens. I start wondering how long he's been waiting. And why? The answer comes slowly over time in pieces. I've been the kind of man who took before, he admits one night. I didn't like who that made me. And now? I ask. Now I'd rather wait than repeat something I regret. The vulnerability in that confession makes my chest ache. The tension doesn't explode. It simmers. In shared glances. In quiet moments. In the way he sits close enough that I can feel him but never so close that I feel cornered. One night, as we sit on the floor leaning against the couch, I say it without planning to. You could touch me. He goes still. Slowly, deliberately, he turns toward me. I could, he agrees. But I won't unless you ask. The honesty in his voice leaves no room for games. My pulse thunders. Days pass. Then weeks. The restraint becomes something we both carry. Until one night it becomes too heavy to ignore. There's no drama. No storm. Just quiet and closeness and the kind of silence that demands honesty. You're here, I say softly. But you're not. He exhales. I'm exactly where you've let me be. The truth in that settles deep. I turn to him, heart pounding. What if I want more? His eyes darken, not with hunger, but with intensity held tightly in check. Then you ask, he says. And I listen. I don't look away. Touch me. He doesn't rush. He gives me time to change my mind. When his hand finally lifts, it's slow and reverent. Fingers brushing my wrists like he's testing whether the moment will hold. It does. His touch is grounding, deliberate, charged with meaning rather than urgency. This isn't casual for me, he murmurs. Good, I whisper. It's not for me either. The closeness deepens, not in haste but in intention. After that night, everything changes and nothing does. He touches me now openly but with the same care he always showed. The restraint doesn't disappear. It evolves. This matters, he says one evening. I know, I reply. That's why I waited. The intimacy grows beyond touch. In shared routines. In trust. In the way he gives me space without pulling away. You don't need to stay. I tell him once during a quiet moment. I know, he says. I choose to. The choice feels mutual. The first real challenge comes unexpectedly. An opportunity, work-related, tempting, distant. I agonize over it, afraid of what choosing it might mean. When I tell Elliot, he listens. You should take it if it's what you want, he says. You wouldn't mind? I'd miss you, he admits. But I wouldn't stop you. The freedom in that answer tells me everything I need to know. I don't take the offer. Not because of him. Because I finally understand what choosing looks like when it's truly mine. The night I tell him, he doesn't celebrate. He just pulls me close, forehead resting against mine. Thank you, he murmurs. For what? For trusting me enough to choose freely. I don't know what the future holds. I only know this. He stayed close enough to feel. Far enough to wait. Patient enough to matter. And when I finally closed the distance, he didn't take. He met me there. And afterward, there's no rush to define what that means. Morning comes softly. Light filters through the curtains in pale bands. Dust motes drifting lazily in the air. Elliot is already awake, sitting at the edge of the bed, careful not to disturb me. His posture is relaxed, but alert in the way he always is, present without demanding anything. You don't have to be quiet, I murmur. He turns surprised. Then a small smile. Habit. I reach for his hand this time. He stills, then lets his fingers lace with mine, slow and deliberate, like he's honoring the moment instead of assuming it. Nothing about us feels fragile, feels considered. Later, as we move through the day together, coffee, shared silence, an easy laugh, I realize something else has changed. He's still watching the world around me, still leaving space, still waiting when it matters. But now, when I look for him, he's there. Not hovering, not holding back, not stepping away, just standing beside me, steady and intentional, like closeness was never about distance at all, but about timing. I don't know how long this will last, but I know this. He didn't win me by pursuit. He didn't claim me by force. He didn't rush what mattered. He stayed close enough to feel, far enough to wait. And when the moment came, we crossed the line together.